I preface this with, so I just had to book my delivery people and I had to count how many steps were on the stairs inside, and I got to the top and I stepped on the 14th step and I went, fuck. There are 14 sets of steps in my internally in my house.
Yeah. Don't count the steps. Don't count the
Don't
steps. So I
had to. And then I was like, oh, that would be weird. And then I was like 13. I was like, oh, no, that's fine. And I went, oh.
Yeah. So Netflix have been trying to get me to watch The Bridge Curse for about a year, because I think it came out last year, right?
Yeah,
this Taiwanese film. And I was kind of unsure of it. And anytime I kept thinking I wanted to watch it last year, it was usually a night when I wanted to crochet, and I was like, I can't crochet and read subtitles.
You know that.
And then
I tried to do that for a good 2 minutes, and I was like, "You're being dumb. Put it away." And then I went back, and then I watched it from the beginning with no crocheting.
Yeah. So the whole premise was, well, I don't know. I found it quite confusing, but like, so the idea was that this bridge is haunted.
Yes.
And that people were doing an initiation test.
Yeah, they were on the bridge for like some like college, like
college.
So
people had to show that they could face their fear and go to the bridge late at night and then go and climb the steps. And the whole idea is like, what if you walk up to the 13th step?
So it's leap years. And so it's like
I don't understand that either.
That's every 4 years. So then this only happens on your February leap year night. So if you walk up the steps, and there's normally 13 steps, but if you walk up the steps on your February leap year night, and you count the steps, and then you step, and then there'll be a 14th step, and you step on the 14th step, and that's when the ghost woman comes back, because she was the one who was like dumped by her boyfriend. She was waiting for a boyfriend on the steps, and then like he never came, and then apparently she killed herself, but then maybe people killed her and they threw her into the river.
So we'll get onto that in a bit, because that was really bloody grim. But a person died for some reason. Yeah, and
on that
so
night. That's why the ghost
and was haunting the bridge.
Yeah.
But the idea is it's okay if you climb the stairs, what I understood, as long as you don't turn around.
Yeah, sorry, that's
and look behind you, because it's likely when you get to the 13th step, she'll be behind you.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't turn around, that's fine.
Sorry, I forgot you do have to turn around on the steps so basically you could go up the steps, and if you just keep walking, it's fine. But if you turn on the steps, and then of course, like the movie starts with these people like setting up, they're testing it for like the freshers or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they hear the chair move, which was like, and so they turn around to look at the chair, and then it's like, oh my God, did we just turn around on the thing? And then they all die.
Yeah, and so because the whole initiation test was what someone starts on the bridge with a blindfold on, and then they unfold they take the blindfold off and then get them to go up the steps, and then the idea is they're supposed to walk around the whole lake, but go up the stairs first, and it's the stairs that are scary because the bridge is scary.
Yeah.
So you start with that scene, and then the film then starts again, but you're almost in the same scene. So this is where I first got stuck in this film, because I was like, so have we gone back in time to see what was the lead up to them going onto the bridge? And I was like, no, because these aren't the same people.
No.
But and so I got really confused, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. Is this and so this took me quite a long time, because I was kind of like, when you read the blurb, I think on Netflix, it's like people recreating an initiation test, and I was like, but this looked so similar. It was like so blow by blow account, to the point where it's like, are we using the same scene? So even, you're saying the chair moving, the chair moves again the second time, and I'm like, in the exact same way, and the people all seem like to be completely reenacting things in a way that you wouldn't expect would be possible.
Yeah.
And I got very, very confused.
But what doesn't help then, spoiler, is that like one of the people are the same.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Which is why I was like,
they're different, but they're not. But hold on, isn't she that like this is it didn't help? And then because the whole thing is it's a bit like is it like The Ring, where like there's someone trying to like work out what the heck is going on.
Yes.
So there's like a person who used to be a news anchor and obviously got fired from being a news anchor, is now doing like a story on this, like on these deaths or whatever. and then like uncovers the fact that this thing happens every 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Karen?
Yes, but for no apparent reason. Like I
The
don't.
girl was killed or died, but was killed.
Oh yeah, so that was on a leap year, so of course it meant she only came back in a leap year, right?
Yeah. So and
Okay,
then
so that. But I just thought that was interesting. So yeah, so we come to the journalists
yeah,
who is on the bridge chatting to the film crew about what they're going to do and telling the story. And yeah, we like she's clearly having a hard time, but is determined to get to the bottom of this. And then we keep jumping between the journalists trying to work things out and this initiation test. And I think my problem was maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but I couldn't work out the timing of the second initiation test versus the timing of the journalist.
yeah,
And I probably should have twigged that sooner, but because I only thought there were 2 time points in this story, I didn't actually realize there were 3. So that was a big twist for me. But like I thought a lot of the scares were quite funny. So ultimately, what happens? They start climbing the stairs in the initiation test, and they do turn around, and then they're like, "Does that count? Oh, it doesn't really count. We're not really doing this, but of course it kind of counted." And suddenly they were in part of this horror being scared by this ghost,
yeah.
and
Getting
so they
hunted
lose.
down by this ghost, basically, because
So
the
they
whole thing.
lose the dude that does the initiation, and
Yeah.
then they're all supposed to find each other again at some scary dormitory. What?
Why? I'm sorry. Why? Like, this is a university. Like, why are they hanging out in this like weird, disheveled, scary dormitory with like scary toilets and everything scary about it?
Yeah, I thought this was really bizarre because I was also thinking, with universities, colleges, space is a commodity. That would never be allowed to sit like that. Surely,
No.
surely it would have been
In the
adapted.
very
And
beginning, I was like, hold on, this is where they live? And then I was like, okay, no, this is not where they live. But like, why does this exist? Yeah.
exactly, but it seemed like they were clearly using it as an educational space though, because there was a makeup room, which becomes important again later on because they go back to the makeup room. So I found that bit
With all
hilarious,
the
Sophie, and
heads
that's
and
when
mirrors. Yeah.
that's when I started to message you because like one thing I should say about this film is it did actually scare me at times, but in quite a like comedy jump scare way that I quite enjoyed.
I mean, I liked the bit where like so the kind of like the big reveal with the woman where she kind of like I think there's something like someone who looks a bit manic with creepy eyes and then their face starts like getting a bit like weird go. There's like something about that like freaks me out a bit. So I feel like when that happened, I was like, or like there's someone who's a bit like you can only see behind them and they're hunched over and then you say their name and they do like the slow turn around and you're just like, what am I about to see? Like, I feel like they use that effectively. Like it's a bit of a trope. It's not like original, but they use that where you're like, oh God, what is she going to look like when she turns around? Like, is she going to do the thing where she's going to like scream and run at them or is she just going to stay there and be creepy? Or so I feel like there were definitely some spooky bits, but like a lot of it was a bit funny.
Yeah, and it was your typical horror tropes,
Yeah.
granted done kind of well. So like the scene I did laugh a lot at and start messaging it was when they're in the makeup room again. And so you've got all these creepy anyway mannequin heads. And I've, as you know, have this doll thing. I'm
I
scared of
don't, yeah,
dolls.
and I'm convinced that if I walk past a mannequin, it's going to grab me, and I don't believe that anything that's a wax mannequin or a mannequin is properly dead. I don't know why, but don't like them.
Yeah, so they had all these heads that, you know, at some point when the scene gets scarier and scarier and scarier, and half of it is like this is your imagination, and the heads, of course, are not moving.
Yeah,
But then, there's scenes in the bathroom because like water again plays such a big part in this horror film because she drowned,
yeah.
presumably. A lot of obvious stuff going on. But yeah, it was the scary drain hair, which I have to say did gross me out because I actually
Yeah.
am very freaked out by drain hair.
I'm
So
gonna find
I
a
did not.
verbatim the message you sent me. Hold on.
I did not enjoy that. And Dave was watching me cringe, going, I love how, like, the mannequins are a bit scary, the women's a bit scary, but you're like, oh, drain hair. It was the worst moment.
It's a scary bucket. And then there's a,
Yeah.
don't you just hate drain hair? Laughy emoji. And I was like, and then you're like, this is joyous. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what have you done? And then the message that I sent you when I watched it was probably about halfway through and it was just, Karen, what is this?
Yes. And I think that was a reasonable response. So yeah, so there was scary drain here, and like Dave kind of laughed at it because he came in to watch this film with me sort of halfway through it, and he was like, this is so typical of the kind of films that you watch. Often, you know, like the Japanese films like The Ring and whatever, that I get freaked out of when it's long hair and faces, and particularly if it's long hair, wet, and yeah,
scary eyes and the white and the long hair, and they're like, I'm not actually doing anything, I'm just like slightly swaying, and like now I'm like,
so that does work in me. But the bucket, like, I think what was really nice about that whole scene where this poor kid does end up getting drowned in a bucket was that you kept thinking it would have gone so many other ways. You kept thinking he could have been killed in so many different ways, and that in some ways it might have been scarier than it actually was, because I thought that the scary ghost woman, was going to come out of somewhere and do it, but actually it was his head was pulled into a bucket and he drowned in a bucket, which ultimately just brought me some comedic joy rather than really scared me. And then what I love watching any of these things with Dave is that Dave was like, yeah, it would have taken longer than that to die. So Dave was like, no suspending, like disbelief, whatever. It was like, nope, this is crap.
How it works. Although I do that when people get like strangled, and I was like, it actually takes like it's pretty hard to strangle a person to death. Like, and so, you know, it's like someone's holding someone for like, I don't know, 30 seconds, and like there's a bit of a struggle and they go limp, and I'm like, they're not dead. They're fine.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
And I think so there were some scary bits in that scene too, like where the mannequins' heads did actually move. The mannequins' bodies kind of moved. That was a little bit creepy, but it was just what I felt, and what my general synopsis of this film is, it was all just too much.
Yeah.
Like there were too many elements and it wasn't kept simple, and I couldn't quite follow it, which meant even though at times I was scared, I was laughing more often than not. Trying
to work out. But then like there's the big reveal, which is that the cameraman who's filming the woman doing a little story was like, he was in the first, like he had been part of the thing years and years and years before.
Yeah, so if I understand the time frame, so the woman that we said was in both of them, which is why we got confused about whether one was a reenaction of the other one or if it was the same thing. So she had been part of the first group of kids that were involved in this, and all of the others had died, but she'd gone missing, and this was something the journalist finds out later on, that this person was missing. And so she was supposed to die as well, but then she made a pact with the scary ghost women to say, look, I'll do whatever you want, don't kill me. So then that meant that the pact was that in 4 years' time she had to bring another group to be killed, because for some reason, and again this might come back to like why this ghost woman exists, but she had to have four deaths. I think she had to have 4 deaths.
Yeah, and I think it was 4 or 5. 4.
Yeah, so many, but there had to be so many, and so
my assumption is because that's the number, because it said that, you know, her boyfriend left her, and then she like got so sad and then jumped in the thing. But then there was a story about actually maybe she was like assaulted and killed by a group of people, and I was like, maybe there were 4 or 5 of them.
That's what I think. Sometimes I wonder if there are things lost in translation, and that's so true. It's maybe not
subtitles here.
Exactly. So I was kind of like, I agree. I thought it was because it wasn't clear that her boyfriend had left her. Basically, her boyfriend didn't turn up to meet her on the bridge. She waited a really long time. I don't think I'd wait till midnight on a bridge. No. But anyway, she waited for him, was very upset, and then the story turned out that a group of folk came and raped her and killed her, and so it wasn't that she jumped and drowned, it was that she was murdered. But what I thought was interesting about that, I mean, that was really grim, and but then it's weird because usually with that kind of thing there would be a bit of like empathy towards the horror characters. So I was thinking about some other films we'd seen, Sophie, you know, the
Shutter?
Yeah, Shutter. Yeah, I was thinking exactly about Shutter.
Where that bit where it's like the story is actually that like she was raped and murdered, and this is kind of like a revenge thing. I was like, oh, we saw this in Shutter, but it was a bit different.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So I was thinking what I found in Shutter was like the twist really was that she actually was trying to protect the new girlfriend because actually the dudes were awful.
They're all predators.
And so needed revenge on this. Whereas this one, yeah, it was very different. It was just
killing a bunch of people
every leap year, killing these people.
She's real pissed.
And so the bit that I didn't understand, so obviously, so we're saying there's this one woman that then makes a pact with Scary Ghost Woman, ends up luring these 4 souls to get killed. But then one person decides to make a pact with her. So there was just so many pacts going on, I couldn't keep track. So this dude that was part of the second group, who was that her ex-boyfriend or something? I don't know. There was also some weird relationshipy thing going on.
And she was the one who'd made the pact. She was like clearly like dating someone, and then they had broken up, but then he was off with one of the other girls.
Yeah, as I say, so much going on. Like, I know we're clearly not telling this in a coherent timeline because there wasn't a coherent timeline, and also we can't clearly.
This was just unclear.
Yeah, I know.
Completely.
Me too. Yeah. I can't fully explain the story, but I do. The one thing that saves this film is I did quite enjoy the twist. I did, because I didn't actually see the cameraman being the dude that was the replacement coming. I didn't see it coming.
It is 5 people, because that's the thing when like she realizes it's the cameraman and like looks and then and it's not the cameraman, and like it's the cameraman in the mirror, and then turns around and it's the creepy dead woman. And then and that actually says like 5 people must die. And you're gonna, so it's 5.
It's 5. Okay, thank you. So it's too confusing. So look, so the pros, I think, of this film, one of the reasons also I put it on is because it's less than my hour and 30-minute
I did notice that. I was like, I wonder if this one has like met the 90 minutes or fewer criteria that we love in a movie.
Yeah, like I was really tired when I put it on. So yeah, and as I say, Dave again was like, this is totally why you're watching this film, isn't it? Yeah. And also, look, it did keep getting advertised at me, which is another reason. I mean, it worked for me. I eventually had to watch
it. Netflix algorithm, and it's like, Karen.
Yeah.
Karen, you like this.
Yeah, seriously, you've not watched this one yet. What are you doing? But I think all in all, I've watched so much horror, as you know, and I've loathed a lot of it. And I didn't loathe this film, but I didn't love it at all.
I didn't loathe it, and I didn't like. It's one of those, like if there's a movie that I love, I will rewatch it a million times. I don't feel the need to rewatch this movie ever again, but I didn't hate it, and I feel like I did a lot of going, what? I think that was the problem for me. That was sort of the one that took it from. But yeah, like it wasn't, as we said, there were some effective scary bits. There were some very ineffective scary bits. Love a twist. Love a creepy hair, face, eyes kind of trope. But yeah, I don't think I need to watch.
No, and I mean, I think my lasting impression of this film will be Death by Bucket.
Death by Bucket, yeah.
And I also, how I've been starting to think about horror films since we've been chatting so much about them is whether I would recommend them to your father. And I don't think I would tell him to watch The Bridge Curse. I don't know if he needs that in his life. I don't know.
That's a good one. Yeah, I think he would watch it if you suggest. Yeah, obviously he'd watch it if you suggested it. I think he would think it was a bit silly. I think that would be the JP conclusion. He would watch it and go, "That's a bit silly."
Yeah. So I think I'm now moving into, even though I don't know your father very well, but I've decided I'm like,
I feel like
on my JP rankings, whether or not recommend. This one would be
JPS. So what would JP say?
Yes. And with this one, I think, I don't think he needs to watch this.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I think that's as correct as the offspring of the man in question. I think that's true. That's good. So I will not send him a message now and say that Karen and I suggest you watch this thing. I think that's a good ranking.